Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Mike Force Podcast. It is, of course, your host, Mike Glover, in the house. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Man, I had an epic weekend. Let's talk about it. Stand by. So, no shit, there I was. 100 acre in the woods, Salem, Missouri, WRX STI at the start line. 5, 4, 3, bah, bah, brah, and I'm out. An amazing experience I had with Rally Ready, Black Rifle Coffee Company, and Fieldcraft Survival, the lead partnership team for the motorsports team that is Black Rifle Coffee. I had a blast, man. Literally, there's nothing that compares to Rally in the world. I had an amazing experience from being exhausted off a recce to racing 6 stages the first day, my 7th and 8th stage the second day, and then my engine blew, and I still had the best of times. Let me walk you through the process a little bit, because a lot of people ask me at the Park Expose, which is the little engagement where you can meet all the drivers, including Travis Pastrana. Myself, I signed my first autograph. They didn't know who I was, but I signed my first autograph, 366, which is my first operational detachment ODA designation, 366, which is 3rd Group, 2nd Battalion, and the 6th Team, the Mountain Team, in Charlie Company, 2nd Battalion. And an amazing support and community based effort that gets everybody hyped for the race. And then you go out and you do 100 acre in the woods. Actually, it was like 101 miles in the woods. But it's the only grassroots motorsport that you can compete with the best in the world. So we flew into St. Louis, we drove down to Salem, and we got ready for day one recce. And man, met up with my co-driver, Glenn. Glenn's a great human being, Navy veteran, actually has a nonprofit called Phoenix, I believe it's Motorsports, and if I hack that, I'm sorry. I'll give you the link below. But it's a nonprofit that gets guys off their asses, especially veterans, and do something with purpose, and that's rally. That's motorsports. So I get into that recce day, which is the first day, and we start at 5 in the morning, get to the first recce site about almost at 7, and then we recce for 12 hours. I drove a rental car through the woods for 12 hours and loved every minute of it. It's essential in doing a stage reconnaissance turn by turn to understand what you're getting into. Now, a lot of people don't understand kind of what rally is. So rally is a stage where your time is a time trial, where you're timed from beginning to end, and then you make what's called a transit from one location to another, and you have to stay on time. So the time hacks are critical. Like, you can't even show up early or late to the finish line, because if you do, you'll get penalized. When you show up and you launch, you have a specific amount of time that is tracked to transit to the next destination. Even tracking our speed. You can only go about 5 miles over before you get penalized again, and you do that throughout the day. Now, what's epic about this is they're varying stages with varying degrees of difficulty. Turns, straightaways, different types of terrain, loose gravel, pea gravel, mud, dirt, rocks, boulders, water crossings, the list goes on. It was an amazing experience. Let me walk you through recce, though. We get through recce, and what you're doing is you're running the line and establishing what is on the Jamba notes. The Jamba notes is JEMBA, which are notes that are pre-calculated based on a automated system inside of a car that calculates the severity of the turn, the distance to the turn, and then characteristics about the turn. So I like direction and distance, or distance and direction in this case, where you get 100. And 100 means because you're traveling, you have 100 meters. It's perfect for me because I calculated all my distances as a sniper in meters. It's how I operated my entire special operations career. And I'm good at estimating distance in meters because I have a calibrated eye. Like I've done it a lot. Range estimation is what it's called in special operations in sniper school. Stand by. Getting coffee for all audio listeners. For all YouTube, you see me slurping this stuff up. If you don't drink Black Rifle coffee, it's un-American. Make sure you drink American's coffee. My favorite is AK. I like it nice and dark, no sugar, no cream, and that's how I get down. BlackRifleCoffee.com. So when I'm establishing the distance to the turn, then you have 6 varying. And let me make this clear. Wow, I just almost had a stroke just now. Let me make this clear. There are 6 degrees of turn based on severity, but that is not the all-inclusive system. A guy was telling me, Tom Williams' dad actually was telling me that they were using hand signs, like literally diverting their hand and moving it around to give the indication of the turn back in the day. And when you look at a crest, for example, a crest, you won't be able to see potentially over a crest. And when you can't see over a crest, it's a blind turn. So what you're doing is creating the note, let's say 100, crest, 3. When you come over it, you're going to take a 3 turn, and you have to trust that note, because if you don't, and you get over the hump, you'll either have too much speed or you won't have enough speed, right? Because you're second guessing the note, or you're overshooting the note. So you have to have the notes to kind of calibrate you in the degree. So let's say it's 100 meters to a crest, which is basically a small hill where you don't see the corner, and then it's a 2. A 2 would be nearly a hairpin turn. It'd be going up, straight, and then back. And that would require you getting on the brakes. That would require late braking, lifting and shifting the car, or lifting and turning the car, and then getting the car lined out for the turn and then sending it, right? With lockers locked in, that diff locked in, and just hauling ass out of the turn. That is very much so an art form, because what you're doing when you're driving the car is you are calculating all of the terrain that you see. And like Tom Williams' dad described, Tom Williams is one of the, he was an R5 driver, placed top in his class, and he's part of the Rally Ready Black Rifle team. As you come over, you would read terrain in these subtleties and make minor adjustments based on what you observe. So it's not like a standard club racing or motorsports like F1, even NASCAR. Because there, you have to be perfect in running the line, right? But a lot of rally is intuition. It's based off observation, taking that observation and using guesstimates that you've determined and varying experiences on how you could calculate the subtlety in pushing the wheel and manipulating the gas and the brakes to put it in the right position to optimize your time. So everybody's shooting for the top time. This particular race, which is 100 Acre in the Woods, Brandon Simonek won, a Canadian former mountain bike, freestyle mountain bike rider. He won. But prior to him winning, Ken Block was in the lead by an exponential amount of time. The last stage, which was stage, I believe, 12, because they canceled 13. I might be mistaken. He was going almost 100 miles an hour. I think the guesstimated speed was like 90 plus miles an hour. And he hit a deer, destroying his car. Now, the car was able to limp it back, but he sprayed oil on the windshield, and he was stuck in 4th gear. These are the type of things that you deal with in rally. Travis Pastrana was leading the pack. Travis is a very technical driver who knows how to send it. Has a beautiful Vermont sports car, sponsored by Subaru USA and Black Rifle Coffee. His co-driver, Ree, which is one of my mentors, Travis is too, is a boss. Nobody is as perfect as she is in calling notes, and they get punctures. They had several punctures, but one of the punctures ripped the wheel, shredded it, took off the fender, and they had to crawl it home. I mean, they were still moving out, but they had to crawl it home. That cost him an exponential amount of time. So guys, the most beautiful thing about rally is it involves community and preparation. And there's a leveling of the playing field. Yeah, it is about your technical driving expertise. It is about your car, most certainly, but it's about your recce. It's about all the attention to detail and all the things that you do. And the coolest thing is the entry point for normal people like me and you can show up and get it done. Now, I had a 2012 Subaru WRX STI hatch, and we bought that car used for $9,000. We invested all of the money into the safety equipment, but my last training session, we blew a cylinder on the engine. So we had to hot swap it with the other WRX STI, and when we got it there, it wasn't tuned. So a lot of guys were like, man, you weren't moving very fast. Let me get a sip of this coffee, please. And yes, I was not moving fast. Part of that reason was I suck because I'm new. Another part of that reason is I'm restricted. So I have a turbo on that car, and I'm restricted. The rules are 3 races. You have to be restricted until the association determines that they're going to allow you to free it up a little bit. You're still restricted, but not by a third of your power. And then you go out into the world and you send it. Well, my engine blew on the second to last stage in transit. I wasn't driving it hard. We were driving 35 miles an hour through the transit, been on the road for about an hour and a half, and it seized. Who knows what happened, but cylinder, piston, rod, completely seized. So incapable of continuing, and I did not finish. And that happens in rally. What I'm going to do, because I understand all the variables. Like, you can't see it right here, but see this thing right here on YouTube, me pointing here? That is my racing sim. That is what I'm going to use to practice to beat Travis Pastrana, Brandon Simonek, and the best in the world. Ken Block is on that list as well. Now, why would I say that? Because I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass. I'm not in this to just hang out with a pack. I'm in this to win and beat all the experts. Now, here's what I know. To beat all the experts requires a lot of investment in time, money, and resources. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to work myself up to the top in limited four-wheel drive. Now, limited four-wheel drive is the category that Texas Dave competes in. Bucky Elastic, which I'm wearing. Big shout out to Bucky. Wearing Bucky's sweatshirt from Rally Ready. But they are competing in limited four-wheel drive. So essentially a stock Subaru just souped up with the right suspension, the right equipment to make it the best. And it's still a capable car, but it's not going to beat Vermont sports cars or R5 cars that are spec'd, right? But the objective for me is to work myself up to Dave's position, to Bucky's position. Dave took first in class. Bucky took fourth in class. He wasn't second in class, but he lost some time on some of the stages, but that's okay. Because I'm going to get up to first, second, or third. And then when those guys step up into an R5 or into a pro open car, I'm going to be there riding their coattails. I am surrounded by the best race car rally drivers in the world. Dave Higgins, I believe seven-time national champion in ARA, gave me advice before I went into stage 7, which I did really well. I think I placed in my class 13th overall in a restricted car, and it was limited four-wheel drive. So I'm limited, but I'm also restricted. So to place 13th in a class of 20, being restricted, I did really well. I beat the car in front of me by 24 seconds. And I beat the car in front of that by 28 seconds. Not to say I'm a badass. I'm just saying I'm figuring it out and I'm evolving. It's one of the things that inspires me about rally is because it's attainable for normal people. You go into it with the right mindset. Yes, you got to get sponsors. Yes, you got to do all the hard work. But that's part of it, guys. I love it because it allows me to operate the outdoors, inspire you to get off your ass and do something about it, which is kind of the theme of this podcast today. Operate the outdoors. Why operate the outdoors? So I started that. Let me take a sip of coffee again. I got to do intermittent coffee breaks. I'm smoked out of my mind, by the way. I'm super tired. Stand by. So, sorry. Let me first. I didn't finish the thought on the engine. One, I will be swapping a rally spec engine into that car. Two, I will be swapping in a sequential shifter, which shifts just down in the pattern versus an H, which takes a lot of time. And I will be getting it tuned for Oregon, the Oregon rally. That Oregon rally is my first rally unrestricted. So what you should see is exponential growth throughout the year. That's my objective. Will I place top 3? Likely not. But what you will see from me is incremental improvements until I'm at the top, because I refuse anything otherwise. And I know all the elements to do that. I'm not a master of rally, but I'm a master of learning, and I'm a master of execution. I got this. I hope you guys believe in me, because I believe in me. All right, so let's talk about operate the outdoors. The context for operate the outdoors starts with the origin story. So no shit, there I was, hanging out with Matt Best at JT's house in Texas. And I was at the bar, and me and Matt were talking over a nice glass of Basil Hayden on a rock. We were talking about the idea of inspiring people using special operations guys with soft backgrounds, special operations forces backgrounds, inspiring them to get outside and build resilience. One of the concepts I had was doing this free fall jump into Glenn Eberlstock's private ranch in Idaho. Because do I think you're going to do that? No. But how does Gymkhana, Ken Block, inspire you to get into rally? Well, he does, Hoonigan does Gymkhana all over the world. I mean, they just filmed Travis Pastrana's Gymkhana in Florida where he broke his back doing a base jump. So all these things are relative to inspiring. Up until recently, my mission statement read, education was number one. And I like that. Education is still in my mission statement. That's why we train. That's why we continue to educate, as well as providing you with equipment. But one of the things that I realized in going through about 3 years of that was we had a very narrow market, because we weren't able to attract the masses, because the masses are more enticed and entertained by inspiration. They want to see Ken Block jumping in San Francisco. They don't want to see me just running my mouth all the time. Maybe it's a tier down, because if you're inspired, that's the entry point, and then you could start communicating about all the things that you want to do. So the reason I'm having this conversation with Matt is because I'm pitching him on this epic adventure with GBRS. The idea is to do a jump infiltration into Eberlstock's ranch, but you think it's a military thing until you look back and you see us in civilian hunting camouflage, and we jump in with SIG crosses across our waist in Eberlstock bags. I've jumped Eberlstock bags with SR-25s as part of my job. So has GBRS, DJ and Cole. So has a lot of the guys that I've worked with, Andy Stumpf, Tom from Eagles and Angels. So we're going to do that epic thing and inspire you. We're going to go hunting. Then we're going to use UTVs to exfil, likely Polarises, because I want you to see how cool things can be, to dream about, to go, man, I want to go hunting. I want to experience this. You might not experience jumping into a hunt because I don't think it's attainable for most. But that's what we want to do, is inspire. Matt heard my story and he goes, man, we were going to do something similar to that because they're doing it now. They're doing it really soon at the end of the month. But he's like, man, that's like operating in the outdoors. And I said, operate the outdoors. And he went, operate the outdoors. And I stole that. I copyrighted it. Didn't give Matt a chance to call his lawyer. And here we are. So I changed the motto of Fieldcraft Survival's brand to operate the outdoors. Let me explain the process of why this is important. If you were to ask me, Mike, how do I build resilience? Because it's very simple, but it's very complicated to execute. I hear people talking about mindset, talking about building resilience. Like, how do I literally do that? In a conversation of the last 3 years, I've come to the conclusion that it's not about anything specific. It's about exposure. It's about getting out into the world, taking risk, and doing things that you're not comfortable with doing. That's what it is. That's why I'm leading by example and doing something, one that I found that I love. I didn't know if I would love it, but that's super risky. We lost 10 plus cars in the entire rally from crashes. On one stage, we passed 5 cars that were flipped, broken. My first rally stage in corner 4, there was an Audi or a Volkswagen flipped up in the wood line. It's dangerous. So I'm trying to lead by example by inspiring you. Because I know if you go outdoors, you go outside. Yeah, there are some inside elements to build resilience. But if you go outdoors and you do something that you've never done before, you will build resilience. The way it works is when you're physically and mentally distressed with trauma, not like trauma like somebody hurting you. I mean like the elements, like hygiene. That is going to make a change in your physiological understanding. It's going to change the imprint. I think it has to do with your genetics, right? Neurogenesis, where you start manipulating these parts of you that are deeply rooted in your DNA and your soul, that change you profoundly, that make you want to get outside more. And God, with 50% of the country being obese, we need it, right? We need to get outside. We need to do epic stuff. So what this also does, it allows us to operate the outdoors, inspiring you. Media is the position, the conversation is the position, but also offer you a line of gear and apparel that will be at Black Rifle Coffee Company, hopefully in Bass Pro Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, direct to consumer on fieldcraftsurvival.com. And we want to provide an outdoor clothing apparel brand that makes sense for the person who wants to get outdoors. So not just about cool materials, because that's common, but cool patterns. Cool things that are going to help you integrate in the outdoors and facilitate your experience. That's the goal. That's the goal. I think a lot of people ask me about resilience and they're surprised when I tell them, go camping. If you've never been camping, go camping, because that experience alone, man, I'm so uncomfortable with not brushing my teeth. Well, get over that. And then when you do, all of the things that you're uncomfortable with, you'll become addicted to. That's why overlanders overland a lot, because they overland, have an epic experience, and realize it's not so bad. Man, that night of sleep where I was exhausted because I was outside and exposed to the elements was the best night of sleep I've ever had. When I got home and the hot shower that I took running over my body, it felt so good. It was the best shower. I didn't eat a lot of good food, but when I came out of the woodline, that meal fireside was so delicious. Food has never tasted so good. These are all the things that we need to focus on. And we're not shifting away from what we do about preparedness, because when telling the story of operating the outdoors, if you want to operate, you have to prepare. So you have to plan. You have to plan for contingencies. You have to lay your stuff out. You have to conduct rehearsals. You have to do all these important things. So how I'm going to end off this podcast is giving you a few pro tips on how you could operate the outdoors. Number 1, planning. Planning doesn't start with planning, it starts with vision. It starts with declaring the objective. A lot of people who want to do epic things like run businesses, have families, meet objectives or goals, they don't start that process out by defining the goal. They haphazardly tiptoe in it. If you want to be successful, you have to define the problem through the mission. So what's the mission? What's the objective? So when I'm defining the mission, I'll simply say, I want to do something epic outdoors. We need to distill what that means. Let's say you're going to go into rally. Let's use rally because it's fresh on my mind. Let's talk about rally. So my objective is not to dabble in a motorsports that is rally. No. Because when you dabble and you backwards plan off of the dabbling as the objective, then you have a whole bunch of inconsistent subtasks that are not going to lead to success, but to dabble. I'm starting off big and bold. Travis Pastrana in my interview with him asked me, hey, Mike, what do you want out of this? I want to beat you. I want to beat you at your Pikes Peak run. I want to beat you at Rally ARA. I want to beat you at Mount Washington. I want to beat you at Nitro Circus, at the Nitro Rally if it kicks back off, because I want to be the best rally race car driver in the world. And now that I know you, I'm going to take all of your magic, which is technical expertise and experience. I'm going to have a conversation with you and ask you, and I'm going to learn. I'm going to adapt, and then I'm going to win. That's my goal. Oh, that's condescending. No, it's not. That's how you win. That's how winners win. In reflecting on a special operations career, I wasn't a master of anything because I'd never had the time to master anything, but I had to be a jack of all trades. When I was a sniper, I was also a joint terminator air controller. I was working communications. I was working observation. I was setting up the gun to be the most precise surgical tool in our arsenal. I was doing everything, and I had to be the best, right? But I never mastered anything because I didn't have the time allocated. So when I look at rally, it's about declaring the objective and then figuring out the timeline, backwards planning off of that. Now, most objectives are defined. My objectives are fluid, gender fluid. They're fluid because I don't need to stand on a podium holding an ARA, American Rally Association, trophy and saying, I made it, because that's just the beginning. So my objective is to be the best rally car racer in the world. Now I could line that out because I could say I could take an ARA national championship, Mount Washington record, Pikes Peak record, stage records, but likely that is a fluid objective that lasts decades. The coolest thing about me going into rally at my age is I have a whole bunch of potential because Ken Block's in his 50s. His co-driver for his daughter, Leah Block, if you're not following her, make sure you give her a follow because her experiences are really cool because she's starting out in this. But her co-driver is co-driving me in Mexico. So when I look at his daughter being positioned to race, and I just threw that Mexico thing in there for context, then I look, man, I got a lot of potential in this sport because it's not physical. It's physical, but it's not as physical. It's more mental. And I still have my mind and wits about me. So I take the objective, and now I need a backwards plan timeline-wise off in creating the plan. I understand right now in doing research, and that after you declare your objective and your mission and your intent, spend weeks digging in the books, Google, asking questions. And now I have a timeline. And in my third year of rally, from the first day of that third year to the end, I could start beating records. So when I ask everybody about their expertise, when I ask everybody about the position of the cars and everything that's happening, I know by my third year, I could be a national champion. Here's how it works for me. Year one, this is part of my plan. Year one, I need to learn and understand how to operate. So I need to learn how to not make mistakes. I need to learn from those mistakes and evolve into being perfect and not making those mistakes. So what you'll see is incremental changes and faster times in the same car. What you'll also see is me going to a minimal restricted car and my times exponentially my position exponentially, going up, getting closer to the top. The cool thing about ARA is even when you're positioned in park expose, they do it based off your speed factor. So I need to elevate my speed factor. I need to elevate the position at the park expose and 92 cars being car 61, one step at a time. And that's what I plan to do. I don't have expectations that I'm going to be winning. So that's out of my head. I don't have expectations that I'm going to be the best or perfect because that's out of my head. I have the expectation that I learn and get better turn by turn. One of the lessons learned that I learned with my co-driver, Glenn, in the first stage that I ever ran in rally was I need to commit and trust the notes. In fact, Glenn literally said, trust the notes, commit, which meant keeping the gas pedal floored, hammered down. And that's hard to do when you don't trust the car because you're not super comfortable. You don't understand the grip on the terrain, and it was raining. You don't understand how much speed you can carry. But if an expert is sitting next to me and he tells me commit, and then you get through that, the next stage, the next turn, I'm committing. Because if he tells me flat 6, or he tells me max 5 or 6, I'm pinning the pedal as far down as it will go in 4th gear because I'm restricted, so it would bog me in 5th. Hitting the red line if I can at max speed, trusting the notes. I began to learn and understand, and that process was beautiful. Year 2, now I'm in a limited car with a rally spec engine, a lot of lessons learned, sequential, and all these small incremental things that I could do to make the car faster, to keep up with my technical learning and progression. I also need to spend a lot of time at Rally Ready's ranch training. I need to spend a lot of time with Ree and Alex. Alex is the co-driver, her husband, Ree's husband, is the co-driver of Ken Block. Ree is the co-driver for Travis Pastrana. I have 2 people in my group, in my network, in Idaho, right down the road, that I'm going to be training with in a couple weeks after Mexico, that are the best in the world. So that learning curve is super steep. Do I expect to win a championship in year 2? No. But I expect to place in the top 5. That's my goal for year 2. Because I now have to keep up with Dave and Bucky. Their cars are similar. We're tuning and working on different things to make them faster. And Dave's crushing it because he's tapped his potential. Yeah, sure, he can work on some things, but his potential is ready to transition to R5 cars or R2 to R5 cars. And he could sit in an open car and be the best in the world, competing with Pastrana, Brandon Simonek, Ken Block, McKenna, Barry McKenna. He has that ability now. But I'm years behind. 3rd year, I step into R2 to R5 car. That's right. I get in the faster cars, pushing the limits, more control, more things I can get away with in the car where all the technical expertise will facilitate me. But I don't want to do that too fast because that will cost me potential injury, potential catastrophic loss by doing that too fast. It's a progressive path. But I'm willing in my plan to commit to all those things. One of the things that I'll do next year is I'll run Pikes Peak. I'll run it in a car that allows me to get staged and prepped for the following year to start looking at taking out Travis Pastrana's record. Now, Travis Pastrana is an expert driver. He's very technically proficient, but he had one of the best cars ever built, Vermont sports cars built for that particular run. By the 3rd year, I hope in Pikes Peak, I could take his record because I'll have the position to have the right car. In fact, next year, I might just do it in a Porsche 993 wide body, which I think will be cool just to take my 993 and do it. The next thing after planning is preparation. Remember, when you plan, you have to prep by creating all the do-outs that are necessary to accomplish that goal. I just told you a lot of mine But those aren't just in rally driving or notes or recce and communication. That's equipment. That's from the shoes that I'm wearing to the racing suit to the helmet. All those little details put you in a great position. Like Reed told me, Travis Pastrana's co-driver, a national title champion. She told me, hey, when you get the thermal underwear and the suit, get 2 suits. Get 2 sets of underwear. Why? Well, because when you start off the next day, you want to start fresh. Man, and I get that. When I used to operate overseas, if I was doing a mission, I would come back, reset everything, new batteries, even though the battery's only been out for a night, new batteries in all my optics, new grenades prepped, new flashbangs prepped, ammunition dump, fresh ammo, going out, boring running a bore snake through my gun, re-zeroing if I had the time, and then cleaning my uniform, getting it all clean and set up to where the next day when I put that uniform on, when I put that kit on and went to war, I felt squared away. That was the start point. It's what I teach at Fieldcraft Survival when staging and prepping your EDC, your everyday carry. It's all part of it. It's super important psychologically and in building your confidence. So when I look at all the subtasks that I need to execute after establishing the plan, they all have to meet the end objective. Yeah, sure, it'd be nice to get a sexy brake calipers and rotors on my car. But will that make the difference in meeting those objectives in the first and second year? Potentially not, right? There are subtle things that don't necessarily matter in the big picture. So when I allocate my time, I'm allocating my time, especially in a busy season. I'm allocating my time to maximize my potential. If you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, watching it, and you haven't heard the last podcast on time management and allocation of your time, listen to that, because that's what this is all about. Because you have the plan, you have the task, and it's how you allocate those tasks in the allocation of your time that are going to mean and matter the most. The next thing I want to do is determine what kind of support do I need. That service support from the 5-paragraph operations order: situation, mission, execution. Service support, command and signal. In service and support, how am I going to accomplish this? I am blessed to be the driver for the Black Rifle Coffee car as part of this motorsports team. I couldn't do this alone. I mean, like if I didn't have a motorsports team, if I didn't have Rally Ready's amazing, talented mechanics, I couldn't do this. So how could you do it? Well, you got to find a mechanic, or you need to be mechanically inclined. But that takes away from your allocation and time. So there are race car drivers who work up grassroots who do it all. I'm not in that position, which is why my timeline is on a steep incline, right? That's why my learning curve is like this versus others that I've raced with this weekend. Grassroots guys that don't have the money, that don't have the network. That's a thing. You could start there and it's going to be just like this. That's okay. You'll get more experience and your time will come. But you need to have the service and support necessary to succeed. One of the things I'm doing at Olympus, I'm racing in Mexico City in a couple weeks, or next week. Next Tuesday, I leave for Mexico City. I'm racing in Mexico City representing America, 1 and 2 cars in a national championship Mexico rally round. Super excited about that. The following couple weeks later, I'm in Olympus for my second ARA stage near Seattle. I hired Nicole, who is the spouse of one of my friends and works with Black Rifle Coffee. She will be out there with a couple gals that are helping support me. I'll have Mike Hernandez. I'll have one of my girls, Ricky. I'll have Kat out supporting and helping, because it takes a team to win. It takes a team. I know I could lead a team. If I have the right players on that team, I know I could win, period. So we're going to support the team. We're going to go get food. We're going to prep the drivers, take care of everybody, and make sure that we're squared away, because I want us to be successful. I want Dave to be successful. I want Bucky. I want Tom. I want JT. I want the team to be successful. So you got to make sure you have the support mechanisms to do that. In special operations, depending on what unit you're in, you might have a 1-to-4 ratio, like 1 operator to 4 personnel of support that are making sure that operator can accomplish their goal. Operations, or an operator, is doing an action in their field of expertise. So to accomplish and optimize performance, you need that support. And remember, in the loop of learning, there's always a phase of you going through a culmination, like doing a rally, and taking that information, the mistakes that you made, and coming full circle, coming back full circle. Guys, let me close this out and talking about Save Our Allies and American Contingency and the Fieldcraft Fund. So Save Our Allies, I'm a board member of Save Our Allies. Chad Robichaud, Nick, and Tim Kennedy. They run a wonderful organization that is out there helping our allies, including Ukraine right now. Amber L., one of my gals from Fieldcraft Survival, who's the director of family preparedness, is out there right now as a nurse helping in the humanitarian effort in Ukraine. And that makes me very happy, makes me worried. I'm worried about Amber. I'm worried about all the members of our teams that are over there, including Save Our Allies and Black Rifle Coffee. Jericho from Black Rifle Coffee and Coffee or Die spent a couple weeks out there getting the ground truth on what's going on. Hope to get him on a podcast or talk to him soon when he gets back. But we're making significant impact in that area of desperation. The Ukrainians look to be handing Russia their ass. And I like saying that out loud. It makes me happy because that communist dictator came in with conventional, heavy armored convoys and didn't expect Ukrainians motivated by freedom to shoot an RPG or an anti-tank missile up their ass. And I love that. It's not an anti-tank missile. It's an anti-tank rocket. So we started a Fieldcraft Fund to help Save Our Allies with medical equipment and also line out to help Americans that would potentially be faced with catastrophe. If you're not a member of American Contingency, I want you to go on americancontingency.com and sign up to become a member. You don't have to pay anything. Membership is $5 a month. And what we are doing with the hundreds of groups that we have throughout the country is we're taking money from Fieldcraft Fund and buying enough supplies in every region to be able to support Americans if they ever are faced with catastrophe. The government has a response time. The Federal Emergency Management System has a response time that isn't fast enough. We have to be our own first responders in our own community. My goal by the end of 2024 is to have a contingent of American Contingency members that could immediately move to a cache, which is likely a shipping facility that has rigged vehicles ready to move of supplies that are going to help Americans in catastrophe, natural and man-made. Not every disaster is natural. There are a lot of disasters that we're faced with that could be humanitarian, that could be active shooter-based, right? A mass shooting in Vegas, for example, that affected a lot of lives. We would deploy there to facilitate anything we can to help that cause. We are not doing this to make money. We're doing this to help and give back to all the people that are affected by catastrophe. It's what Fieldcraft mission statement is. We're here to help and educate, train, and equip Americans, people, to be best prepared for the worst case scenario. And that continues to be the case. So if you want to look at the link below on YouTube, there's a PayPal link that goes to a 501c3. We will give you the receipt, so it's a tax write-off for you. And you can go to the link underneath the podcast to donate to the Fieldcraft Fund that is directly going to help Ukrainians in harm's way, Americans who are doing humanitarian efforts on the border of Poland and Ukraine, and Americans who are members of American Contingency to be able to leverage those assets to deploy to help Americans, period. Go to americancontingency.com, go join, go find a group. It's now that we need to start focusing on community and building ourselves up, especially with all the divisive things that are going on in the world. Lastly, guys, want to say shout out to all my sponsors from Rally, 9 Line Apparel, Redcon, One, Slumber CBN, the Wolf 21, Sabelt, Black Rifle Coffee Company, Rally Ready, of course, Hawk Performance, Eagles and Angels. All the companies that believed in us when nobody believed in us. I hope to get SIG on board next year because I would love to see a firearms manufacturer on the side of my vehicle. I'd love to see that, but that will come in due time. I have Wolf 21, just got a testimonial back this morning about our products. The Wolf 21 I started with CBD and CBN as a combo with sleeping in mind. I went through periods of depression, suicidal tendencies, all of these problems I was facing in a transition because I had a combination of trauma and a combination of not getting a good night's rest. Now I'm past a lot of that. I still deal with issues occasionally, but CBD and CBN has helped me profoundly. Uncanna is the CBD company of choice. Use the coupon code Fieldcraft to save on Uncanna. Former U.S. Army Ranger who runs and operates that company. I use CBD from Uncanna, and I combine that with CBN to make my own formula called Bed Down that you can go on thewolf21.com, thewolf21.com, and check it out. Just give it a try, man. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. There's no feeling of getting high. It kind of takes your head and all the things that are in it a little, dials it down a little bit so you can get a good night's rest. I think that's it for the podcast, guys. I want to say thank you for subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you might find us, and especially going to YouTube, hitting that subscription link notification, and leave us your feedback down below. Our next podcast, which I'll do later this week, will be on answering your questions. I had a prepped question on my Instagram, mike.a.glover, and my backup account, Mike Glover Actual. Make sure you go to YouTube to my personal channel at Mike Glover Actual, and check out all the content we got. I love you guys. Fieldcraftsurvival.com. Till next time. Peace out, guys.